But anyways, that's my message for the day, and we bless you, and we hope God's Spirit will be with you. We pray that you'll gather the knowledge to pray with, work it out in your mind, and adopt a new policy. And that's my message for today. I'm going to hand the mic over to Katie.
Hello, happy Wednesday. We're halfway through our week here in front of the LDS Church Administration Building across the street from Kurt and McConkey. Am I good? Thank you, Kurt. Okay, well, you just heard from Brian Bresee, and I'm Katie Moore, the co-host, and I'm going to read to you an introduction. Just a minute, I have to use my thumb. Is this good? Okay. All right. We're about to hear from Judy Klapperisch Larsen. Judy was born in Chicago, grew up in a suburb of Detroit, Michigan, and moved to Utah in 1980. She has 2 stepdaughters and 7 grandchildren who call her Grandma G. She retired from the Huntsman Cancer Hospital at the U, and since 2016, Judy has been an advocate for survivors of sexual violence. Judy is the SNAP, Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests, leader for Utah, and serves on the board of directors of SNAP, which is headquartered in Chicago. Judy has been associated with a local advocacy group called Talk to a Survivor, and she co-leads a weekly virtual Finding Hope support group that is sponsored by SNAP. Here you go, Judy.
Welcome, Judy.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for holding this special week to protect children. I've been involved with Sam Young since many years ago. I first was involved with him via Facebook, heard what he was talking about. I have survivors of sexual violence in my family, and so I was supporting him. And then in December of 2017, Sam and his mother, Birdie, showed up across from Temple Square on the sidewalk in front of City Creek, the center, the shopping center, and was collecting signatures on a petition to give to the LDS Church to stop the worthiness interviews, and especially to stop the sexually explicit questions being asked of the children. And so I was there for 2 days with Sam and Birdie and got to know them really well. And I think Curtis was there too. And from there, I just jumped on the bandwagon, and I was in the march that went up to the church office building in March of 2018. I was also in the march in October of 2019 that went up to the Capitol building. And I support all of Sam's efforts to help kids. Back about 50 years ago, the LDS Church produced some faith-promoting videos that were also made into film strips. Now, for those who don't know what a film strip is, it's kind of an analog version of PowerPoint. You could move from frame to frame on a projector that was shown on a screen. And 2 of those films that I saw were Johnny Lingo and another one titled One. A lot of people aren't familiar with One. Johnny Lingo talks about you can't look at a person and judge their value just from looking at them. Johnny Lingo was in love with a woman that everybody thought was below his level of importance. He called her an 8-cow wife, and he cherished her, and she blossomed with his love. One is the story of a nearly blind girl about 13 or 14 years old who had very low self-esteem and was not really accepted in her young women's group. And so the young women's teacher talked with her, went to her house, talked to her about how important she was to the group, and that she wanted her to participate in a program they were doing in a few weeks. And she said, you could be the narrator. You can memorize what you're going to say. You can count the steps from the side of the stage to the podium, and you'll do a good job. And the girl said, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. I'm handicapped. I can't do that. And the woman took her by the shoulders and shook her and said, you are a daughter of God. You can do this. That movie was one of the reasons why I joined the LDS Church, because it struck me so hard, the message, you are a daughter of God. Children are born perfect. How you measure up in the eyes of a church does not make you worthy. Your worthiness is not what you do. Your worthiness is who you are as a human being. And worthiness is a loaded term. It involves self-esteem, how we see ourselves, and how kids trying to figure out where they fit in the world get the idea of who they are and where they fit. And there are different developmental stages for kids, and each kid develops at a different rate. A 5-year-old and a 6-year-old might be really mature, or they may be really immature.
Can I add something to that? You know, also, we're all born into very different bodies as well. Some, you know, the hormonal levels in the womb play a huge role. Also, the serotonin levels play a huge role. So we're all living very different experiences. Although we're all human, what's going on in our bodies is very different. So you're right.
As an example, my mother smoked during her pregnancy with me, and I weighed 5 pounds 6 ounces and was born 3 weeks early. She stopped smoking because she had a baby to take care of, and 11 months later, when my brother was born, he weighed 8 pounds. So it is. It matters. It matters.
What's going on in the womb while the mother is carrying the child is hugely impactful.
Yes. Worthiness is a measurement stick used by leaders to determine whether you're going to be allowed to participate in the culture, the rituals, and the processes. Otherizing happens. You make the cut or you don't make the cut.
But you know how cruel that is? Because we're born into different bodies. We have different strengths. One child's born with a crazy sex drive, and you're putting in one other child has none. And you're putting a standard, it just doesn't work, you know? It's harmful.
Well, a lot of kids know the feeling of being picked last for a team.
Yeah.
So it leads to internalized shame. Having to prove worthiness can create an atmosphere of inappropriate boundaries that members are required to answer questions regardless of their comfort level or need for privacy. It can create an atmosphere of rejection, exclusion, and public embarrassment. Shunning and shaming can happen. It can create a culture of perfectionism, as you said, Brian. Utah has the highest level of antidepressant medication use in the United States. It also has the highest level of teen suicide. One in 3 girls and 1 in 5 boys in Utah will be victims of sexual crimes by their 18th birthday. These interviews can interfere with spiritual development and a member's potential relationship with how they perceive deity. The approach should be, we are all worthy of love, deserving of good things in life, worthy of good experiences, worthy of a relationship with a higher power if that is something we seek after. It's harmful to put a leader in the position of representing God and what God thinks about another person.
You know, that is so true. And this gets right back to your bishops aren't even trained in any kind of mental health questioning. Mental health professionals go to school for years before they interview their first patient. But you have bishops that have no understanding. They're probably good men and mean well,